Hello everyone, it's Tony Richardson here with TUTExpert.com, and I'm bringing you a tutorial on how to create 3D text just like the Syfy channel. This logo right here is just really well done. It's a simple logo, but I love the way this light reflects off the top here. If you notice, if you ever watch the Syfy channel, this logo comes on quite a bit. It says Syfy and Imagine Greater, and I wanted to try to recreate this. This is actually my recreation. I'll show you. This is the file. Let's turn everything off, and then I'll turn on theirs. This is theirs. So let me orient that a little better. So if you notice, it has that same highlight at the top, and then the shadow and Imagine Greater. And I'll show you how I did this. Now this font, you won't be able to find this font. It doesn't exist. They did a custom font. It's actually called the Syfy Sans font. I don't think it's available anywhere, but what I did was I created splines. So I'll turn that off and show you. I basically, if you go here to the live selection, if I select these, you'll see all my little dots and everything for these splines. That's the Y, and that's the S, the F, and the Y. I think I got two I created here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new document. I'll show you exactly how I did this. Now we're going to want to select a plane. If you're not using Cinema 4D, don't worry, there's other programs out there. There's Blender, there's 3D Studio Max. Blender is free. 3D Studio Max, if you have that, you'll be able to follow right along. But all the techniques I'm showing you here will apply to other softwares. So Cinema 4D, I'm using R14. There are some differences with previous versions. There's something called linear workflow. And the way to get to that is to go to Edit, Project Settings, and down here I have it checked on. And you may or may not want to use that. That's something to play around right towards the end, because it does affect the way the scene renders. So, okay. Let's see. We have our plane, and if you orbit around, you can see we have our plane. One thing, like I said, we're not going to be able to get this Syfy font, so I am going to steal it from this file and just paste it here for the sake of the tutorial. So there it is, right there. Okay. What you're going to want to do is, if you don't have the font, the way I did it was I created a plane, and I went in and I created a material, and under the color channel I put in the picture of the Syfy logo, and then of course applied that to the plane, and there it goes. It just looks like a regular material. It is not in 3D, it's just a picture. So I was able to kind of place my dots around there and get the exact font that I was looking for. So we'll go back here. We have that now. We have a spline. We need to extrude this. Now first I'm going to, because these are on two different ones, I'm going to right click and I'm going to connect objects. Okay, so I'm going to go to these two and delete them, because now I have one spline altogether, and that's important. Otherwise the extrude could have a problem. I tried it earlier and it did not work very well. So I dropped an extrude NURBS in here, and now you're going to have different terminology for different programs, but whatever you use as your extruder, in Cinema 4D you make this a child of the extrude, and as you see, not much happened there. I'll show you why. One is because it went to Z and not to Y. So we'll go to Y, and there we go. Now we should start. Yep, there we go. We're starting to see something now. So let's see what else we need to do here. There's going to be a couple of little tweaks before we get everything underway. One, we have our Imagine Greater. I'll just use what's called a MoGraph or a MoTeX, and if you notice it came in at a different angle. So we will grab our rotation tool, and I will start rotating, and if you hold shift it will click in 10-degree increments, so we can get it exactly at -90. and then I will pull up on the Z axis after selecting the move tool, and I'll just ballpark this. It doesn't have to be perfect. And this I'll just call IG because it stands for Imagine Greater. Imagine Greater. And if I remember right, the font was Arial, and that matched up quite well. Wasn't dead on. I think the G was a little different, but everything else was quite right. We're going to need that significantly smaller. I don't know if 30 is about right. That's about right. Okay, and depth, I know it's somewhere around 7 or so. Let's switch to a 3D. I have 4 different perspectives here, and just about every 3D editor does. So I'm going to go to the front, I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to line this up on the, I guess that would be the x-axis. So everything's aligned, and that way these two are even. So this is a little smaller than this as far as the height is concerned. Alright, so we've got our Syfy. Now I need some materials. So I'll double click here. That'll get me a blank material. I'll go to the color channel, and then I'll change it to white. Alright, I will grab this material and I drop it right on the extrude NURBS. You can drop it to the spline, I think, on some, but the thing is that I want it to be in a 3D environment and not just on the spline itself, so I always use the extrude NURBS. This one I think was a purple, so I'll double click, get a new material, and I'll go to the color channel and I'll grab something in the purple range, a little desaturated, more in this gray area. Choose OK. That looks halfway decent, and we'll drop that right on the Imagine Greater. Now if you go into your colors, you can see there's something called specular. If you click that off, it does not have any type of reflection. I usually keep it on, and if you see, it's set to a mode of what's called plastic, so this will resemble plastic, and the height is not too high and the fall off is quite large, so that gives it, when the specular or the reflection dot shows up, it'll look very much like a plastic material or some sort of material similar, you know, just a semi-gloss type of material. So let's just go ahead and render and see where we're at right now. This is the default. Yeah, no shadows, no nothing. So the way to get that is to add a light, and you'll notice that this default scene just has its own light from an infinite source, I guess, really an omni source. It just is a light that exists in all areas. So we'll go here and grab a new light, and if you notice, it's right even at the x-axis. So I'll pull it up and I'll pull him over, and let's get him somewhere around here. I'll pull him up just a little bit. That's not too bad. Now this is an omni light. I'm going to go ahead and grab the shadows. Let's go to we'll grab soft shadows. I use area a lot, but soft shadows look a lot better here. And we'll grab a spotlight. Okay, and this spotlight, boy, this is going to be something. Okay, we need to turn him all the way around. I think somewhere around that angle, and I'm going to grab the move tool. I'm going to bring him right over here. Alright, and I need, on this light, I like to have an inner angle. Now, the reason why I like to do that, if you notice here, the inner angle, as I increased it, it increases there. I like to have that right on the x-axis, and then my outer angle up to in the 40s. So that just kind of, oh, another thing too is, for this I need it angled just a bit. What I mean by that is I need this to point down so I can kind of get that reflection there. I need that light to, on this line, to point down just a bit. So there's a little more, yeah, there's a little more intensity. If you kind of hover around this, you can see that that hits at the top here. It does skip across the top, and we'll have to watch that because that could affect the way this renders. So let's go ahead and see where we're at. We do need to add a shadow here on this light, so let's go ahead and add a soft map, density 100%. Now if the shadows are too dark, you can come in here and you can drop them down to something a little less harsh, or you can change the density, either one. And let's go ahead and render. Oh, we're getting pretty good, except, you know, we're not getting exactly what we're looking for, but it's close. Now there's something called global illumination, and global illumination, there's two things: ambient occlusion and global illumination. If we were to click ambient occlusion, that is just a fast way for this to gather light information and render it in the way that it would in a real world. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. It does change it just a bit, a little more realistic, but not super realistic. So we'll go ahead and uncheck that, and let's grab global illumination. Alright, I'm going to go from still image to IR and QMC. Now I won't get into that right now, but that just gives me a little bit better rendering here. And let's take a peek at this as it plays through. You can kind of fast forward through this if you want. Alright, and that's what we have. Okay, so we're not quite getting to what we want, and there's a couple reasons. One, I think that the background, or this plane being gray, is a problem. It doesn't allow me to reflect that light. Also, this might need to back up just a bit. And the other thing is this linear workflow. This is what I was talking about earlier. This renders it in to look like real light. I mean, it really works well. The problem is we're trying to create something that doesn't really happen in the real world, something like this, and that just isn't very natural. This light doesn't reflect and bunch up like that. So that's where we have to kind of turn that off and then say, hey, I want this to, you know, look a little more like not less like the real world. Okay, I have a hot spot there. I know one thing we need to do is definitely take this not the spotlight, the Omni light. We're going to drop that down to 50 or so. The Omni light, I'm going to need to ramp it up to about 150. Alright, so we changed quite a few things. We took the linear workflow off. We raised the spotlight. Let's go ahead and take a peek, and let's see what this looks like. Alright, we can already see that it has a hot spot at the top, just from the renderer. And oh man, that's really looking good. Look at that. Okay, so we've got the effect that we want. We've got the hot spots showing up by taking the linear workflow off. And all we really need to do, if we wanted to tweak this, is just take this ambient light or area light, kind of bring it over a bit, you know, and maybe raise it up, just give the overall scene a little more light, something like that. I think that'll probably do it. And I'll go ahead and render one more time, just so that we can see, and you can see what I mean. Okay. You can fast forward through this, or I guess I could pause and save you the agony of sitting here, but oh, look at that. The suspense is worth it. Okay, that's really nice right there. Now, you can tweak this and play around with it a little more. You know, this is a little bit hot here, so maybe 120 is something we'd want. I'll go back here and show you. Now, one thing is this background has, even though it's white, it has a little purple hue in it, and that's something you can do too. You can create a second material, go in here to the color and raise it to white, but then go to purple somewhere in there and bring this into the purple range just a bit, not much, something like that, and then drop it on to, we'll delete the original material, drop it on there. Boy, that's a little too much. Look how much that just that small change makes a difference. We'll click OK, something like that, and that should reflect the light quite significantly. Raise that up a little bit more. Grab the intensity of this down to the 120 range. Click render, and let's just see what this does. So we should have quite a different look here by just making the floor or the plane that the light is bouncing off have a purple hue. Oh, and that's just beautiful. Look at that. That's very much like what I was trying to achieve. So there it is. That's how to get that sci-fi effect with 3D text. You can have other light sources if you want to change the shadow maps to, the shadows from a shadow map soft to area. You'll get a much denser shadow on the left side. But you got the overall effect here, and you can see how it's created. Remember to watch your linear workflow if you're in Cinema 4D. And that's it. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. If you're on the site, go ahead and check out a few articles or watch another video.